Vincent's arrival had not gone unobserved. Covington House was the last building at one end of the main street through the village. To the far side of it was a low hill covered with trees. There was a young woman on that hill, and among those trees. She wandered at all times of day about the countryside surrounding Barton Hall, where she lived with her aunt and uncle, Sir Clarence and Lady March, though she was not often out quite this early. But this morning she had woken when it was still dark, and had been unable to get back to sleep. Her window was open, and a bird with a particularly strident call had obviously not noticed that dawn had not yet arrived. So, rather than shut her window and climb back into bed, she had dressed and come outside, chilly as the early morning air was, because there was something rare and lovely about watching the darkness lift away from another dawning day. And she had come here in particular because the trees housed dozens, perhaps hundreds of birds, many of them with sweeter voices than the one that had awoken her, and they always sang most earnestly when they were heralding a new day. She stood very still, so as not to disturb them, her back against the sturdy trunk of a beech tree, her arms stretched out about it behind her to enjoy its rough texture through her thin gloves, so thin, in fact, that the left thumb and right forefinger had already worn through. She drank in the beauty and peace of her surroundings, and ignored the cold, which penetrated her almost threadbare cloak as if it were not even there, and set her fingers to tingling. She looked down upon Covington House, her favourite building in Barton Coombs. It was neither a mansion nor a cottage. It was not even a manor, but it was large and square and solid. It was also deserted, and had been since before she came here to live 2 years ago. It was still owned by the Hunt family, about whom she had heard many stories, perhaps because Vincent Hunt, the only son, had unexpectedly inherited a title and fortune a few years ago. It was the stuff of fairy tales, except that it had a sad component too, as many fairy tales did. She liked to look at the house and imagine it as it might have been when the Hunts lived there. The absent-minded but much-loved schoolmaster, his busy wife and 3 pretty daughters, and his exuberant, athletic, mischievous son, who was always the best at whatever sport was being played, and always at the forefront of any waggery that was brewing, and always adored by old and young alike, except by the Marches, against whom his pranks were most often directed. She liked to think that if she had lived here then, she would have been friends with the girls, and perhaps even with their brother, although they were all older than she. She liked to picture herself running in and out of Covington House without even knocking at the door, almost as if she belonged there. She liked to imagine that she would have attended the village school with all the other children, except Henrietta March, her cousin, who had been educated at home by a French governess. She was Sophia Fry, though her name was rarely used. She was known by her relatives, when she was known as anything at all, and perhaps by their servants too, as the Mouse. She lived at Barton Hall on sufferance, because there was nowhere else for her to go. Her father was dead. Her mother had left them long ago, and since died. Her uncle, Sir Terence Fry, had never had anything to do with either her father or her, and the elder of her paternal aunts, to whom she had been sent first after her father's passing, had died 2 years ago. She felt sometimes that she inhabited a no-man's land between the family at Barton Hall and the servants, that she belonged with neither group, and was noticed and cared about by neither. She consoled herself with the fact that her invisibility gave her some freedom at least. Henrietta was always hedged about with maids and chaperones, and a vigilant mother and father, whose sole ambition for her was that she marry a titled gentleman, preferably a wealthy one, though that was not an essential qualification, as Sir Clarence was himself a rich man. Henrietta shared her parents' ambitions, with one notable exception. Sophia's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of horses approaching from beyond the village, and it was soon obvious that they were drawing some sort of carriage. It was very early in the day for travel. It was a stagecoach, perhaps. She stepped around the trunk of the tree and half hid behind it, though it was unlikely she would be seen from below. Her cloak was grey.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.